A handsome man walked through a dark forest. He stopped before a cottage that looked like it was spun from moonlight and bad intentions. The walls were whitewashed and crawling with vines. The windows covered in dust with cobwebs. In the door a slab of ancient oak, polished to a gloss by centuries of use. All the scenery was breathtaking as he looked from under his umbrella. He knocked twice on the door.
Hello? Is anybody here?
He could hear a snicker from inside the cabin. He almost groaned. "I'm sorry," came the voice, light and tilting. "I do not let devils in my home."
What devils do you speak of? I am human.
Theodore said, his grin betraying his unnatural veins in the spirit-lit forest. "Oh, please. If you're human, then I'm the king of the morrows," Raziel teased.
Come open this door before the sun rises.
"Oh, please. Why would I have to open the door before sunrises if you're human?" The voice was closer now, velvet and mocking. Theo could hear the smug bastard grin.
I tire of your games, Raziel. Invite me in already.
"I shall not invite a vampire in my home. Your skin is pale and ashy. Do not try to lie to me."
What the devil are you talking about? You've never seen me.
Theodore smiles as he leans against the door jamb, his umbrella covering most of him from in the shade. From under the overhang with overgrown vines, twisting and turning, as their leaves glimmer in the gloom, as if they were alive. Knowing elves, they probably were. "My house is that of mirrors. There's no way for you to be seen."
Raziel, if you don't let me in this house right now, I will burn your wheat. You will starve.
Theo warned. "You will do no such thing." Although he could hear the clicking sounds of Raziel's heels, he never got with the modern times that said it was feminine for men to wear heels. But then again, most elves are stuck in their ways, especially high elves such as him. Theodore felt the air shift as the latch turned. The door swung open, just enough for a flash of silvery hair and the glint of violet eyes. "Well, come in, come in. Who knows who saw you?"
Saw me? I was careful.
Theodore slipped inside, his umbrella snapping shut. "Oh, careful. You rely too heavily on your shadow magic. It will be your undoing," Raziel said flippantly, brushing off invisible dust.
Whatever. How is brunch come pass?
Theodore changed the subject as he looked around. Raziel's cabin was a marvel of living wood. The whole structure appeared to have been grown rather than built. Theo's first impression was that it resembled a treehouse for an elf that never grew out of a habit. Except it was somehow more ancient than any tall-footed soldiers that ever tried to storm these woods. The walls were timber disguised as brick, the seams sealed with moss and thin whispery cobwebs of house spirits. Plants, some potted, others simply rooted throughout the floor, cluttered every surface. There was a couch the color of deep emerald, its material so ancient Theo suspected it predated most written languages. Although Raziel isn't exactly the old man he pretends to be among other high elves. Theodore shakes his umbrella, setting it aside. His suit was impeccable, even after the long journey. Black with blood-red shirt underneath. His thick, black, curly hair was falling all over the place, and his red eyes twinkled with mischief. As he sat down on Raziel's couch, as if he owned the place. Honestly, after so many years of meeting in secret, he felt like he belonged here. More than his castle, anyway. Would you like tea? I just got the best shipment of honeydew leaves from the Dryads. Raziel fluttered about, his heels almost silent on the moss deeper in the cabin.
I'd love a cup. I didn't know you still talked to Dryads. Those stuck-up princesses.
Theo mumbled. Oh, please. Us magic users have to stick together, especially after the war. It'll do you bloodsuckers some good to befriend us. We might show you a thing or two. Raziel teased, his voice light as he fluttered about the kitchen. Theo smirked as he opened up the box he had tucked under his arm. A deep, dark, rich blood wine. Something that Raziel only participated in on occasion.
You know, I went over to some of the younger vampires. Like you said, everything begins with the youth and all that.
Theo said dismissively, although it was obvious he wanted some reaction. He could hear tinkering. Pause. He lifted his hand behind the couch. After so many years of friendship, he could just sense where Raziel was. It didn't shock him the slightest bit when the wine glass touched his hand. He murmured a thanks and went to pour his wine. Oh, so an old dog can learn new tricks. Tell me, what did the youth say? His words almost lost under Theo's giggles as he poured himself some wine.
The youth? God, you're only a couple centuries old. Why must you talk like that?
Theo complained. Sorry. I'm the youngest high elf after all. I fear the old management doesn't like my youthful sway. Raziel laughed as he came back with honeydew tea and cookies that he knew only he would touch.
To answer your question, not good. The younger vampires seem to get it in their heads to take on the Flatfoots.
Theo sighed tiredly. The devil? What would they do that for? Do they not know how many lives were lost in the tragedy? There was concern coloring Raziel's voice, although it didn't show on his face. The dark elf had a healthy, darkish blue complexion. His purple eyes showed signs of life that his face probably never would. Not after the war. Not after so many young were lost. His long silver hair pulled in intricate braids, yet it still flowed through the air like water. It always mystified Theo. He swore he could spend hours just looking at his hair move, although he didn't dare himself to look too long.
I don't know, Roz. I think it's the arrogance of youth, like how we were.
Raziel smirked as he picked up a cookie, watching Theo sip from his wine glass. Oh God, don't remind me how we were. And suddenly, the room faded into memory. Raziel was now in a conference room 100 years ago, back before any of the other high elves knew what he would become. We need to strike the Flatfoot, a councilwoman screeched. Do you beg for death? Came another. The Flatfoot need to understand there are consequences for messing with the enchanted forest, a councilman commanded. Raziel really needed to learn their names, but it didn't matter. It's not like They were important to elves. What's the point of remembering if they're not worth it? He doesn't know them yet. And he doesn't know why they're going on about the war with the flat feet. Weren't these the same council members that said we had nothing to fear? Do you ever think things would be different? Raziel was pulled out of his musings as he finished his tea in silence. A silence that Theo didn't know how to fill. It took him back to when he was a young vampire. The meeting of how the other covens argued and argued. How much was said, yet nothing was done. Nobody was willing to put their brood in the way of magic users who didn't trust or care for the dealings of vampires. Especially since most vampires used to be tall-footed themselves.
I think, old friend, that our kind were always going to fight.
He paused, taking a deep breath, finishing his wine so he could hurry up and pick up a cup of honeydew tea so he could feel warm on his cold skin. War between us was inevitable. The Flatfoot just came through first. Raziel hummed as he nibbled a cookie and sighed tiredly. It looks like he just collapsed in on himself. The house itself felt like it was shrinking with him, with his magic and time. You know, as a dark elf, I've spent many of my years hidden away in this forest. I think that there was something wrong with me. Do you know dark elves don't live in the enchanted forest? Raziel said, completely cutting off his first train of thought.
Really?
Theo entertained him, knowing that if he didn't, that it would just lead to a self-deprecating spiral. Yes, dark elves live as nomads, traveling anywhere and everywhere. They sleep under the stars. I've never met another dark elf in all my years of life that has been in the same spot as long as I have. Raziel sounded wistful. His normal light and teasing voice felt too deep.
Would you like to travel?
Theo offered, and it was an offer. If he said he wanted to travel, they'd go someplace. His thought was quickly cut off. Travel where, Theo? The flat feet are hunting down vampires for their veins, for potions. The enchanted forest is protected by High Council. And if I leave for more than a week, it's considered an abandonment of post. The dwarves are basically enslaved, even though we pretend that they have freedom. We all know if another war breaks out, they'll be forced to use their rune casting, smithing, in arms with the Blackfoot. They'll be forced on the front lines against us. Raziel's hands moved as he talked wildly before he eventually just sunk into the couch. Theo didn't even know what to say. He didn't know how to comfort his friend. And honestly, he doesn't think he should. Because it's true. The flat feet were always a race no one paid attention to until they were forced to. Theo has heard from born vampires, never-borns, that the flat feet were always docile. They make perfect blood bags, they said. God, how times have changed. Vampire veins being sold for potions. Vampires being kept alive for their aphrodisiac saliva to get the flat-footed high. They were being used as recreational drugs. Elves being taken young and old and forced into brothels.
Do you think that if we helped during the war, it would be different?
Theo mumbled. He's not even sure if he wants the answer. No. I have had years, and I mean years, to think of the war. It was during the daytime. The few day-walking vampires wouldn't have been enough to change the tide. The Flatfoot studied our customs. They knew of our traditions. They knew that we would never leave the forest unprovoked, no matter the begging of dryads. They knew that as long as the material was rare enough and blues flowed heavy, the dwarves would accept any job. They knew the Dragonborn did not concern themselves outside of their lava pit. And the demons, turning traitor, just sealed our fate. They sit there and they mingle with the Flatfeet, and they allow them to, as if demons do not harvest their souls. They just don't care. No. Another war is brewing, my friend. Raziel turned to Theo, leaning over, and I think it's in our best interest to go.
Where?
Theo said with a mocking laugh. He tried to pretend it didn't sound manic. Their conversations always ended like this. If they talked long enough, they both end up flipping sides. It was just Raziel telling him about how leaving was futile. He doesn't know why it always ends up like this.
Where would we go, Raziel? Where would we hide? My castle. I fear my castle has been sanctioned. I fear these meetings we will have will become far and few. I fear your people know I've been here, and I fear mine know you have been there.
Raziel looked away. He looked chestfallen. Theo grabbed his wrist to make him look at him. You are my only friend. The only one I care not to take risks for.
I know where it is,
Theo proclaimed, looking Raziel deep in his eyes. His hand cold as he gripped the still warm flesh of Raziel's hand. One thing that Raziel never could get used to was his friend's cold, clammy skin. Despite seeking it for reassuring comfort, it was the one constant in Raziel's life. What do you mean, old friend? He moved his wrist a little, making Theodore let him go as he played dumb. He sat down his long-abandoned cookie and grabbed himself some blood wine. He'd need it for this conversation, although normally he didn't indulge in, well, you know. But he trusted Theodore enough to know that the wine was ethically sourced.
The Book of Sorrows, Raz,
he proclaimed, whispering, looking deep into Raziel's purple eyes. They were so close they could feel each other's breath. As much as he liked Raziel's home, thinking of it as a place where he can truly be comfortable, it felt like a lie. Raziel was not a forest elf. He could see it in the way his violet eyes contrasted against his skin. He was a dark elf, and Thea would give anything to see Raziel fully charged underneath the moonlight somewhere, high up in the mountains, probably where griffins would lay their eggs. Raziel broke Theodore's musing, suddenly leaping off the couch, gulping down his cup of blood wine, not even looking at him. Are you serious? No, I do not want to know, Theodore. Raziel shook his head. The Book of Sorrows, originally named Equus, which started the Great War of Equus, and later in history was known as the Book of Sorrows after hundreds of thousands of lives were destroyed looking for it. It's said that the monks in the monastery that it was hidden forged their hands on the book to keep it sealed. once used by giants, full to the brim of rituals, real heaven-sent rituals, not like the fake ones demons use souls for, that will allow non-magically inclined, such as vampires, flatfoots, and halflings to practice magic with minimal ease. Theodore, you need to go. Raziel's voice was steel.
But Raziel, I know where!
You must go, my friend. Raziel cut Theodore off sharply. If I knew you would have come to me with this, I would have met you out of the forest. I do not trust the spirits. They wander. They do not whisper like they did when I was a boy. Raziel's eyes frantically darted around to the forest spirits that Theodore has long since stopped caring about. Even as they float directly in front of him, even when they participated in more personal conversations. Forest spirits were a constant in the enchanted forest. They were always there, watching, singing, murmuring to the elves. Theodore could hear nothing. Even vampires that used to be elves no longer hear the spirit chatter. They talk to any and everyone, but not about others. Right? But Raziel does not spook easy. Theodore allowed himself to be taken to the entry of the cabin, allowed himself to grab his umbrella, although useless now. They bid their farewells and said that they would see each other in due time, but something felt different, something felt wrong.